Hello, hello. Thank you so much for tuning into this ASMR soft spoken true crime video. Today we're going to be doing the disappearance case of Daniel Robinson. Daniel was born on January 14th, 1997, to Father David Robinson and Mother Melissa Edmonds. He has a brother and two sisters. His father was in the military, and the family was brought up in South Carolina. He was born with a birth defect, which caused him to not develop his right hand. But he was extremely determined, even as a child. He taught himself how to play trumpet, which people thought would be impossible. He continued to play instruments in sports like football and basketball. He would not let anyone tell him what he couldn't do. He wore a prosthetic arm throughout high school, and eventually in college he decided to no longer wear it and embrace himself and love the way he is. He was described as very outgoing, friendly, and social. He had an innate passion for adventure and was known to travel at inopportune moments. He went on to attend the College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina. He was passionate about climate change and making a difference, so he pursued a major in geology. He graduated with a degree in geology in 2019. After graduation, he got a job as a field geologist at Matrix New World in Phoenix, Arizona. In Arizona, they have to drill for water sources due to the dry climate, so he would then go and test the water to ensure that it was drinkable. In 2021, Daniel was 24 years old. He was living in an apartment located in Tempe, Arizona. Upon moving to Arizona and working, Daniel's family says he showed signs of being reserved and shut down. The move and being away from family and friends was very hard. And within the month of being there, he had felt extremely lonely. He did have his sister who lived in Arizona, but after experiencing the COVID isolation and after moving from college where his friends stayed, mostly in that area, he became even more isolated. On Thursday, June 17th, 2021, Daniel's friend from college visited him and spends the weekend with him. Daniel shows him around Arizona. They had not seen each other for about a year, so both were very excited for the visit. Daniel tells his friend that he met a girl, but the friend said he doesn't go into much detail. Daniel had worked a second job where he had met her. It was only a few weeks of texting, and they had gone on one date, so it wasn't anything serious at the time, but he seemed excited, according to his friend. On June 22nd, 2023, Daniel calls and leaves his mother a voicemail, which said, quote, "If you're free, call me back if you want. But in other words, I just want to let you know, regardless, I love you, and yeah, we can talk later." His mother doesn't think of anything at the time, but states that his voice and message did sound off. On the morning of June 23rd, 2021, in Buckeye, Arizona, a pump technician for Weber Water Resources named Ken Elliott arrived at the job site at 9:30 a.m. He walks over to Daniel's Jeep and had a brief conversation on where they were in the project. Daniel was saying things that did not make sense, like asking Ken if he wanted to go home to Phoenix to rest. It had been raining pretty hard at the time, so Ken asked Daniel if they should let the storm cell pass overhead before starting. After no response, Ken looks up and sees Daniel is staring off into the desert and had a very distant look in his eye. Daniel then waves goodbye and proceeds to get into his 2017 blue-gray Jeep Renegade and drive off. At around 2:30 p.m., the principal of the firm, is that what they're called, calls Ken and states that they had not heard from Daniel. So Ken gets into his car and starts driving around looking for him. The only tracks on the road were Daniel's, since the storm had cleared the tracks previously. When Ken gets to the intersection, he sees the car tracks did not go east towards the intersection, but rather west out in the desert. After about 6 hours of being last seen, his family is informed that he has not been located. Both of his parents are in Columbia, South Carolina, and both of them begin calling and texting him. His father recalls being immediately alarmed due to this being such a bizarre thing for Daniel to do. His father then calls the Buckeye Police Department at around 7 p.m. to file a missing persons report. He talks to Officer Cruz, who then decides to take a drive down Sun Valley Parkway just to see if he is stranded on the road somewhere needing help. Investigators also attempt to get a ping off his cell phone, but were unsuccessful. And on the other hand, they were able to access the Uconnect system on Daniel's Jeep, but there was no GPS information available. On June 24th, his father jumps into his car and makes the 20-something hour drive to Arizona. He says at this time he realigns with his previous military training to leave no man behind, pack up your emotions, and focus on the mission, which was his son. The first thing he does is go to the Buckeye Police Department to get more information on where Daniel was last seen, which he discovers was the desert. Arizona is one of the top 5 states for missing people, since there is so much desert. The elements in the environment are extremely harsh So one can go missing, become dehydrated, or fall to the elements or wildlife fairly quickly. They also state that some areas in the desert can be known for violent crimes, and if one dies in the desert, bodies can decompose pretty quickly. So in Arizona, there are many unidentified bones that have been located in the desert. Police are also informed on June 24th that there was this girl Daniel had been seeing, and that they should look into her and see if she has any idea on where he may be. Police track down a woman named Caitlin, and she tells them she has no idea what happened or where he is, but she does share information in the last text exchange they had. She says she was not in a relationship with Daniel and had only known him for 11 days. The woman says she ordered liquor through Instacart, a grocery delivery service, and Daniel was the person who delivered it to her house, where she and her friend were reportedly drunk and then invited him in. Afterwards, Daniel texted the woman saying he accidentally left something of his there. This is when the woman says Daniel started acting creepy by showing up unannounced, then got his item without her permission. I hate this part. She assured investigators that she didn't actually intend to get together with him by making insulting, derogatory comments about his disability. On June 20th, he told her he loved her, but she did not respond to the message directly. Caitlin wrote to a text to Daniel on June 20th, quote, "Honestly, you showing up at my house unannounced makes me extremely uncomfortable. I will not be home today, and I don't see us hanging out anytime soon." A day after that, Daniel Robinson wrote, "I'm outside your place." Caitlin responds, "Please stop doing that. I'm not even home. This is not okay." And then in a text she says, "You need to back off." He replies, "Do you hate me?" She says, "I don't hate you, but please leave me alone." Daniel says, "The world can get better, but I'll have to take all the time I can, or we can, whatever you name it. I'll either see you again or never see you again." So, there's possible other side to this story, because according to Daniel's sister, Daniel and Caitlin must have formed a deep enough connection that the pair had discussed their spirituality and thoughts on it. And Caitlin had prompted Daniel to listen to a podcast created by the German spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle. This man's teaching seemingly changed the way Daniel viewed life. On June 25th, Daniel had been missing for 2 days. Buckeye Police then conduct an aerial search in the sky to see if they can locate Daniel. They look around the area of where he was last working and were unable to find any trace of him. Police put flyers around the areas of the desert and the airport in hopes someone will report seeing him. Police inform his father not to go into the desert, despite his desire to. So instead, his father initially would take his binoculars as close as he could to where the well site would be to look for anything, or to see if he could see what his son may have seen to make him suddenly leave. Meanwhile, Daniel's siblings are searching through his social media looking for anything. They notice he deleted all of his pictures off of Instagram. A week after his disappearance, his family is unable to obtain the key for his apartment, and the police cannot get a warrant since they need proof of a crime. They eventually get the landlord to go inside for a wellness check. Inside the apartment, his family sees dishes in the sink and on the floor, clothing everywhere, very dirty, which was not like him. The state of his home indicates his family that he was not in a good mental space. His family said at this point he was stressed out with the move, working 2 jobs, and trying to figure out what life was, but that he never was suicidal. In fact, the day before his disappearance, he said he was going to find another job at some point and that he was going to move. They see him having plans with his life. He had also had plans to go hiking with his sister that weekend, so it doesn't align for them of him taking his life. On June 7th, 2021, 14 days after he went missing, a tip comes in. A woman from Phoenix, Arizona, says she spotted someone fitting his description at the grocery store. She says she goes over to speak to him. He does not appear to be homeless, and the guy tells her that he is just on a journey. It's something he has to do. She then offers him a granola bar and water and told him to be safe. She asked to take a picture if someone was looking for him, to which he declines. This story's a little weird to me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, why did you approach someone in the grocery store? And, like, she made a note of it. She was like, oh, he didn't look homeless. Like, then why are you approaching him and offering this random... I don't get that, but police go to the grocery store and check in about this tip, but according to them, this is not Daniel. On July 9th, police reach out to a nonprofit that assists in aerial searches. The Civil Air Patrol arrives at 8 in the morning and search the area around where he was last seen. They complete the search at about 11 in the morning and come up with no results. So after about 2 weeks of him missing, his father creates a website dedicated to finding Daniel. I'm going to link this website in the description. It has a lot of resources to advocate for the family and Daniel. So he's hoping to get any information about his son, and they put up an award for $10,000 for any information. So Buckeye PD is a smaller department with lots of land to cover. His father then asks the community to help and bring community searches together for the desert. People show up to support the search. and they begin searching the deserts. They break the map up into grids for each day. During a search, volunteers find bone remains that turn out to be that of a small animal. But every single time anything like this happens, it's so heartbreaking for his father. On June 19th, 2021, a rancher found a Jeep rolled over on its passenger side in a 20-foot ravine on his property in the remote area of the desert. It is confirmed to be Daniel's Jeep that he was last seen in. The airbags are deployed, the sunroof was kicked out, and there was evidence in the vehicle indicating that the driver was wearing a seatbelt at the time of the crash. Daniel is nowhere to be seen around the crash scene. Several personal items were found inside his vehicle, such as his backpack and keys. His clothes were found scattered around the vehicle, almost like he had thrown them off. Inside its jeans is a cell phone and credit cards. In the trunk of his car was 2 cases of water bottle, which meant that Daniel had known about the desert conditions and to keep them there for safety. Daniel's car was found about 2.5 miles from the well site where he was last seen. This means Daniel would have been able to bring the water with him and walk back to the well site in less than an hour after his car had crashed. It is also suspicious that none of these aerial searches picked up Daniel's car. There was no debris on the car that would have blocked the site, and it was a bluish Jeep in the middle of the desert. So some start to wonder how they missed the Jeep and suspect that the car was placed there after the searches. So Buckeye Police Department theorized that Daniel must have crashed his car, sustaining no injuries, since there was no blood found inside of the vehicle. He then kicks out the sunroof and goes out. But they also believe that he maybe had a severe brain injury, which had caused him to feel hot and shed his clothes, and then was disoriented and walked off and succumbed to his injuries. So Daniel's father had actually suffered a brain injury during his time in the military, and he remembers thinking that this theory is very bizarre, that you would feel hot and remove your clothes. So Daniel's father then hires a private investigator named Jeff McGrath, who specialized in accident reconstruction. His father states something didn't feel right about the accident scene. Jeff notices there is significant damage to the right side of the vehicle, which probably caused the airbags to deploy. He thinks the damage shows the car must have struck something very large and solid to cause that damage. But where the vehicle was laying, there was nothing around the vehicle that is noticeable to cause the damage. Jeff obtains the information from the black box of the vehicle. As he analyzes the crash data report, It states that Daniel's car was going anywhere between 29 to 30 miles an hour, all the way up to when the airbags deployed. Jeff takes his vehicle to the area to test drive. The terrain was very rocky, and he was not able to go over 15 miles per hour due to it being so rough. He then gets into an all-terrain vehicle, which would get up to 22 miles an hour in that condition. So to imagine Daniel's vehicle hitting that speed for that long feels impossible to Jeff. My only problem with this is that I doubt Jeff would really test it in a way that was significantly dangerous. It's like I'm wondering, is it actually possible for the car to go that fast and crash? But it's obviously extremely dangerous, so how much is Jeff really trying to do that? Anyway, the analysis also shows at the time of the airbag deployment, the vehicle had been driven another 11 miles afterwards, and the engine had been clicked on about 46 times, which indicates to Jeff that the vehicle had been moved after the crash to the front right side of the vehicle. Daniel's father, David, continues to lead the community searches in the area every Saturday since he's been missing. He then starts to coordinate searches around the area where the car was found. On July 31st, David's team finds human skull and shoulder bones. They inform the Buckeye Police Department, who then test the bones and determine that it is not the remains of Daniel. Coroners do believe they may be able to match the bones to someone and bring potential closure to another family. So after about 3 months and still no sign of Daniel, Gabby Petito goes missing. This is when it's highlighted that Black and POC are missing and not getting attention. This then shifts and starts to have more media coverage on Daniel, which had not been covered that much through the media when he had initially gone missing. His family speaks on having more attention towards these other cases and the frustration that it took something like this to start bringing attention to Daniel's case. So there is an update as of 2023. Buckeye Police Department says that the case is still active and open. On May of 2023, they released an updated police report that shares an update in the case. Detectives state they were able to uncover location data in Robinson's cell phone, placing the phone at the crash site at approximately 10:05 a.m. the morning he went missing. Police also state that they received a tip from a person who claimed that he had a brief encounter with Daniel in the Hasayamba River the day he went missing. The witness is named Bill, who claimed to have seen Daniel in the area after he disappeared. Bill noticed him in a Jeep. He said he wore a reflective work shirt and boots. He also noticed Daniel was missing part of his arm, consistent with his disability. However, detectives say that Daniel's SUV system and his electronic device shows that that wasn't the case. Bill claims to have seen Daniel at around 11:30 a.m., then changed his story to a different potential sighting time, none that matched the data of the phone at the crash site at 10 a.m. The police report also casts suspicion that Bill may not have been truthful about a law enforcement background that he said he had. The report disclosed some Google searches of interest that Daniel conducted in the weeks leading up to his disappearance, including Love Changed Me, Delete Instagram Account, Shooting Tempeh, Explosion, and I'm Okay to Do Things I Hate. David, his father, didn't respond to the updated report. He states he talked to his son prior to him going missing and nothing appeared wrong. On July 9th, 2023, David Robinson posts an update on the GoFundMe page stating that, quote, "My investigator has found evidence that points towards foul play, something that law enforcement could easily use to open a criminal investigation that would allow more resources in the case that could result in finding information that would bring Daniel back home. I'm fighting hard to get this investigation." So David continues to hold search parties in the area, to which he says, quote, "I'm entering a new phase in the search for my son. My concentration will be on the forensic that wasn't done at the scene. A candlelight vigil is planned for June 23rd, 2023, the anniversary of the day Daniel disappeared. It is also recognized the families of other missing people." David says, quote, "What happened to our family, to many families, so we are not alone. Families will get their stories out there because those who are participating will also hopefully share their stories as well as Daniel's story. Anyone with information about the case is asked to call the Buckeye Police tip line at 623-349-6411 or contact the family website at pleasehelpfinddaniel.com. On this website, you will also find links and preparation information to engage in searches, a Justice for Daniel Robinson petition, and a GoFundMe page to support further searches that I will link below. Okay, so as for theories in this case, there are multiple theories. The first being that Daniel potentially had a mental health crisis, which caused him to take off into the desert. He then crashed his car into the terrain, where he may have sustained a head injury, but no injury that resulted in blood. He then removed his clothing and walked into the desert, and his remains just haven't been located yet. So the way I imagine this theory is that Daniel is driving extremely dangerous through the desert. He may have crashed his car in a rock or boulder, backed up, and then kept driving for 11 miles, and then flipped the car over in the terrain. But the part that weirds me out is that there was no sign of blood in the car. I mean, maybe it could have been internal, I don't know. So there is this analysis that also shares that the car sped up a little bit prior to the crash, meaning that Daniel was potentially attempting to scale the far side of the ravine bed but failed, causing the Jeep to roll over. I could see this because I was thinking if there was a major dent in the right front car and the car had flipped on its passenger side, I think that would make sense because it's on the right side of the car. The ignition cycles after the crash, the 46 times, are likely Daniel's trials of getting the vehicle to start up again or to simply use the electrical system. With the new update, it's believed that this record the police had confirms this theory, putting him at the crash site at 10 a.m. with his cell phone. So Daniel's father did make a statement saying he was able to obtain the phone records and he was not confident in the police analysis of the cell phone records. So he isn't even confident that the 10 a.m. recording was correct. So other theories point to the oddness of the crash scene. To many, the crash scene feels off because the fact that the car would be able to go up to that speed and then for someone to survive a crash like that without sustaining any blood in the car, it feels impossible to some that he was in the car during the crash. So his brother came out at one point and said that one theory could be that Daniel may have driven his car somewhere after leaving the well site. He maybe parked it just as an attempt to get away for a moment. Then someone or multiple people had found and taken the car. When the news came out about his disappearance, they then dumped the car in the desert as an attempt to cover up stealing the car and to avoid any involvement in his disappearance. Some believed this was a staged crash and that is a clear indicator of foul play. Some theories are around if the car crashed elsewhere, possibly on purpose. And then there was that 11-mile discrepancy between the crash data report and the Renegade's odometer reading. But Santan Recon concluded that the discrepancy is not unusual and have been noted in Jeep vehicles before. So Joseph Catone is a reconstructionist for Santan Recon, and he said the evidence does not support the theory that the Jeep crashed in a different location from where it was found. However, Catone did not have access to the Jeep when he made this conclusion. Catone and Buckeye Police were told by employees at the Jeep dealership the discrepancy in the crash data site and a odometer are common. So, his father is standing by the theory that his son had been met with foul play. On June 4th, 2023, his father posted an update on the GoFundMe page stating, "I was able to do an independent investigation into what happened to my son. In my investigation, with your help, I was able to hire a PI. He found all the information that you may know about my son's case. Things like the red transfer paint on the evidence, evidence that the Jeep Renegade was staged, the 11 additional miles on the vehicle after the airbag deployment, the 46 ignition cycles after the airbag deployment, the time of the first crash of the vehicle at around 1 p.m., the sock that matched the one in the Buckeye Police evidence bag, and the evidence of someone looking for something in Daniel's apartment. So according to Daniel's father, he had Tempe Police look into Daniel's electronics, and it was discovered that tampering of his personal computer in his apartment after his disappearance was made. And there is this suspicion that someone was in his apartment after he was missing and went through his laptop. Jeff McGrath, that PI hired by his father, offered another theory stating that Daniel could have just been exhausted from working on the computer he had been building, mixed with his dark emotions surrounding his supposed failed relationship with Caitlin. He then sought silence in the desert, but was then attacked by someone. He also offers that Daniel used marijuana recreationally, and that perhaps this joint was laced with PCP, leading to hallucinations and the wild ramblings that his coworker had reported. So, another theory that I just threw in. Some have even pointed to Weber Water Resources pump technician Ken Elliott, who is supposed to be the last person who saw Daniel. His story that he said in the police report seems to change every time he tells it, according to some people. Apparently he switches the time he met Daniel, he changes the weather, he changes what they talked about, and a few things just don't line up with the Jeep data. He also adds details that would help explain certain things at the scene that were found at the Jeep. Ken apparently said that Daniel's boots were untied when he left the job site. That would help explain why they were found. One of his boots were found lodged under the vehicle. So some think this is a very odd detail to add in just to make it convenient for the scene. They think that maybe Daniel figured out information that would shut the project down or lose a contract for Weber Water Resources in the future. So, potentially Ken had never met Daniel that day, and he was told to tell a story and coached through it multiple times to cover up something that happened to Daniel. And someone going through the apartment was to clear any information that would disrupt the company's ability to continue. Quite honestly, I don't believe this case. I'm sorry, y'all, this one is far-fetched, but I guess I watched an interview with Ken Elliott, and he just seemed like a normal guy to me. Didn't seem sketchy, but I just wanted to throw that theory in there and put in all the theories I could find. And so there's some that do suggest that perhaps his disappearance had something to do with the woman that he had been texting. That someone like her boyfriend or brother might have acted out to get revenge. Or perhaps this was a random act of violence, with someone aiming to harm Daniel after he had wrecked his Jeep, or before he had wrecked his Jeep, and then they dumped it. And it was perhaps a crime of opportunity as well. So I really wanted to cover this case because his anniversary is coming up on the 23rd, so I really wanted to put this story out there because he's such a young kid. These cases break my heart, but a lot of similarities with the younger men who go missing and abandon their cars. It's always so fascinating to me because there's so many cases like this. But that is the disappearance of Daniel Robinson. So like I said, I'm going to post the GoFundMe and the website down below if you want to check it out. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I did an hour-long video of the Mendez brothers last week, and I didn't post it because I cracked a few jokes, and I don't know. Sometimes I get nervous how people will react, but I might post it anyway. I don't know. And I got a request to do the John Bonet case, which I'm actually really excited for because I'm so stuck on that case, and I just watched a documentary on it. So I also have a lot of different suggestions, like the Kent State shootings, which was a crazy case. I think I got Jacqueline Dowleby. I got a couple others, but I'm really excited to start on those and do those. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a good day or night wherever you are, and that you have a good day tomorrow. And I'll see you in my next video.